Hey guys, now we're going to take a look at how you can find the domain and range of a function that was originally a parabola that is then taken as a square root. So if we think about our original function x squared minus 9 and we think about what that graph looks like, it's roughly going to look like this, where the minimum is at negative 9. So we know with this function, our domain is x, x, er. There is no restrictions on x, and therefore it is just xer. However, for the range, because we know that the minimum is at negative 9, we know that the range is going to be y. Y has to be greater than or equal to negative 9, yer. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at our radical function. So with our radical function, things are a little bit different because we only care where our original function is above 0. So the first thing to do is actually to find the zeros of this function, which is just factoring into x plus 3 and x minus 3. So in other words, x equals negative 3 and x equals 3. So now, if we think about this graph, what we actually have is a graph that's going to look somewhat like this, where this is 3, and we'll call this negative 3, and the graph is actually going to look somewhat like that. Meaning that we have a bit of a split function. This one looks weird because of the x squared, meaning any value below negative 3 when squared will be greater than 9 and therefore is possible in our function, and the same thing as positive 3. So now, if we think about our domain, the domain just becomes x has to be less than or equal to negative 3, and x has to be greater than or equal to 3. So in other words, we actually have a bit of a split domain, where in between these 2 points, we actually don't have the function. So it's a bit of a split function. So we're going to take these two, and then we're going to slap x, er at the end of it. Now, if we were to think about what our minimum value is, we do not have a d value in our original function, meaning that our minimum value is just 0. So our range for this function is just going to be y has to be greater than or equal to 0, yer. So now, if we compare these two, we can see that the domain changes depending on the zeros of our parabola, as well as the range now is just greater than or equal to 0 because of our d value. So that's all for now. If you're looking for any one-on-one or personalized help, you can check the link below.